It's just a long lost look in your eyes, brings out a love that I can't disguise. So take me down to the places I've never seen. Oh, don't you try to kill me with kind. It's just your love that's driving me wild. Oh, from the dawn we rise, with the heart we cry, to the light we go, into the light we go. From the darkest night, from the fire inside, into the light we go, into the light we go, to the light we go. It's just a long lost look in your eyes, brings out a love that I can't disguise. Oh, from the dark we rise, with the heart we cry, to the light we go.
Welcome back, guys. We're getting a look at the domination of KT Rolster over Afreeca in game number 1. It was not close. It was a perfect game for 15 minutes. Rush had a very fantastic game number 1. Would expect him to come back here in game number 2, and I want Afreeca to wake up and smell the coffee. They got to do it before this next game.
Yeah, hard not to be sour if you're an Afreeca fan. Very strange draft. After setting themselves up to pinch the Talia away, they gave up the most famous pick for Yukal in the mid lane. He was able to play that very well. They also were really outplayed at level 1 to allow the Olaf to get a massive lead and trivialize how good Trundle is into the Olaf pick. So really nothing came together for Afreeca. This one needs to be just, throw this game into the garbage, try again with game number 2. This one really didn't work out. They did a full reset, mental and also in pick ban in game number 2. And they will not have their choice of side either, as KT Rolster will choose the blue side and flip the tables on them.
That VAR is so hopeless in the backside. The GP ultimate right on your face, as well as the Broloff right down there. This was the one time that Afreeca made a very proactive move, jumped onto the Yukal, but it was way too late at that point.
You don't get the one time when you're down 10,000 gold to a Kleptomancy gangplank who's flashing into your base to assassinate 2 people. Definitely, the horses had already bolted at this point. This one was over, and we were waiting for game number 2. What will that mean for the rosters, though, Valdez? Because we have 4 junglers that are all likely to play at some point in this series. But what do we say after KT's win? 27 minutes only. You have to earn the right to face Score in this best of 5, and Score's not going to be playing in game number 2.
It's incredible what has happened to KT after Yukal comes in, and even Rush coming in as a substitute for Score and looking good in his own right. A little bit more aggressive compared to that more calm, cool, collected Score. And it's a scary KT team right now. They look so dominant over Afreeca for the second time here. And now Afreeca have to prove to us that they can actually do it going into game 2.
More than doubled anyone on Afreeca Freecs damage. Immense performance from him. I think Smeb or Rush will pick it up, and it will be Smeb. 100% kill participation. Sorry to Rush, but the first postseason MVP pickup for Smeb in this game. Will score 3 times in a row in their last series. KT are rampaging, and it's going to take Afreeca Freecs to heavily modify their strategy to stop this KT roller coaster from going all the way to Busan and facing Kingzone Dragon X.
Smeb just looked unbelievably clean on the GP. I think a shout out to Rush for sure is granted, right? He got the smite on the Rift Herald, he got all the objectives, he was doing his job very well on the Olaf, made it look very OP, but Smeb, he won the lane, was equal in CS with the Camille, got the turret first, and was in the backline in perfect position every single time for the fight. So, guys, we are gonna take a look at a change here. Spirit gonna hit the bench, and Mowgli coming into play.
We'll see what it means for his champion pool. He's been on the Zac mostly this season, the Sejuani. He has played the single Olaf and Kha'Zix game, and there was that Nocturne game before the change that we don't want to see that one again. So we'll see if Mowgli, with the benefit of watching Rush in game number 1, is able to shut him down. It will have to be from the red side, and we could see KT first picking the Olaf again. But I know if anything should be expected is if they can force Kramer onto Varus Judy again by banning away some AD carries, KT's going to be really happy about blue side just banning away as many ADCs as possible.
Yep, they're going to have their way with the Rift as we do near our way into game number 2. Mowgli, another young player, a lot like UCal, in the fact that he doesn't seem to crush under pressure. He seems to stand up and play his game. The question really is, who's the better jungler? I would still give that to Spirit. Again, I don't think it was really Spirit's fault. They lost in game number 1, didn't have the best game, but now it's Mowgli's turn to prove that he can face off against Rush, and that's gonna be game number 2 starting, guys, right now. Here we are into pick and ban. As Papa mentioned, KT going to be on the blue side this time around, starting off with a Tom Kench ban and a Morgana ban.
This time they're pinching the support pull of Tucson, and the reason why we see this is that Afreeca picking a 2v2, which has the advantage in the 2v2, is one of the things I wanted to see because Tucson has been such a big playmaker that giving him support counterpick is one of the ways to slow down Deft and Mata, who are one of our best duo lanes if they can pick for lane and have a winning 2v2. So we will see Afreeca roll back the mid lane bans. On the red side, they're trying to force KT to first pick Taliyah and give up something like the Olaf or the jungle matchup, actually lose out in other roles. So KT respond, not as we expected by banning AD carries. They say, we need to keep the AD carry pool bigger because we don't want to first pick an AD carry. That means the Gangplank will be banned away. Another favorite of Keen, even though we saw Smeb rocking it in game number 1.
Well, a couple of supports that can keep your AD carry alive, and Afreeca decide to mix it up here and go with the Xayah ban instead of an Azir. I said it before in the beginning, I think that's a mistake up against UCal. This kid, he's totally new, it's his first season, and he's 6-0 on Azir. And you give it to him here. Definitely an interesting question. Of course, there are other picks such as the Olaf. Will Kuro counterpick with that Azir? That's the question now.
Maybe their argument is, if this was Score playing, maybe the Olaf priority would be lower. With Rush, you need him to be on a very strong skirmishing jungler. They will prize the Olaf, so this could just be a Taliyah takeaway if Afreeca won it. But I see you in open arms. It feels like Afreeca have a different Varus priority to any of our other LCK teams on 8.6. Wow. They will lock it in this time with only a single AD carry ban. And it is a self-counterpick in many ways, given how good Olaf is into the Varus compositionally. Let's see if Afreeca take away the Taliyah on the red side. Azir is open as well, and is a big pick for both mid laners. So I wouldn't mind the Azir takeaway, but with Azir and Taliyah open, does feel like KT have their choice, and they will be given their choice with the Skarner takeaway.
So throughout 2018, we've mentioned 2 picks that the Olaf is good into. One of them is Varus, the second one is Skarner. And Afreeca say, we're going to take both of those. We don't agree with what everybody else is saying about this. Would love to get the thoughts about this kind of draft, because we were questioning it in game number 1, and game number 2 seems to be an even bigger question mark. Perhaps they're trying to be really sneaky, but they give away the Azir once again to UCal. KT, they're all smiles in the booth. I'm sure they're happy about this draft so far. 7th game of Azir, so far 6-0, so very much on paper a great pick, and even with the nurse, great lane priority established, they will go Braum for the level 1 as well. You would imagine to try to recreate what they did in game number 1. They always have the Kalista, they might even draw a Kalista ban, as insane as that sounds with the power level of the champion. Kuro decides very quickly to go with the old crown favorite. Go for the Vel'Koz into the Azir. We've seen UCal play this once as well. It is a good laning matchup, but you don't have priority in the matchup outside of maybe level 5 when you can get 3 points into your Unraveled Earth, the W, and just push the lane momentarily. In general, there's always the all-in potential from the Azir as well. So will this actually shut down the Olaf? And the mid lane priority KT able to establish in game 1? My first thought is no. Yep, the Olaf gonna run straight at that Vel'Koz as well, but We're here into the second ban phase. Let's talk about this. Kalista being taken away from Def this time around. You don't want to brawl in your face. I think that's a good ban. Thresh going to be taken away from TuSin, as with already 2 support bans on the Rift here, they can go ahead and ban 2 more if they want to take that away from TuSin. Curious that we haven't seen Rakan picked up by TuSin yet or banned by KT with all the support focus. Looks like they're just going to go ahead and take the Alistar away again.
Maybe they just feel like Afreeca wouldn't run a Varus Rakan lane into Deft and Mata because of how strong they are in the laning phase. But I think they're going to be sorely mistaken. TuSin is really good on the Rakan. He's going to hover it at least. Are they going to go with the Varus Rakan? Varus, a very strong laner, even though his build path is what really has caused him to tumble down the priority list. They will take the Rakan for a secondary initiator and frontliner. KT Rolster, will they go Ezreal here and just go for very safe 2-item spike? They'll be confident in the Olaf and the Azir to bridge them. And the Camille is available as a blind pick top laner if they want it.
You talked about Kai'Sa.
Bringing back the Kai'Sa. It went through picks and bans in game number 1. Be cool to see it. If they're going to actually go for it, will they lock it in? Dev's first Kai'Sa game doesn't come, and it is the Ezreal for the more reliable laning phase.
Now, you mentioned it before. It's the Death Smirk once again, just trolling us. Everybody that is watching the game. I wanted to see the Kai'Sa once again. And Mata looks like he might be doing a little bit of trolling himself, as they're thinking about top lane picks here for Smeb. What's it going to be? The Camille is open.
It's just so obvious, Valdez. It was always going to be what they were going to hover, and they go Ezreal and Camille, the safest and strongest choices with their options open. We've seen the attempt to run the Conqueror Renekton into the Camille. It certainly can work. He sees the Hexa ultimatum and says, I got my ultimate, I'm ready to go. But how about another skill matchup? They need to find a win in the top one way or the other. A lot of our top laners spamming Conqueror Jax in solo queue. Oh. This is awesome. Okay, we will see the Malphite. This has been played in the LPL by Gimgoon. You can actually run Trinity Force Malphite into Camille and win the 1v1. It is also a secondary initiator. This is where Afreeca finally can show us what the extra preparation has brought. The LPL special comes out. It's Malphite top against the Camille.
When you get into semifinals, you have to have trump cards when you come into this. And Afreeca, we mentioned it before, what's going to be the sneaky pick they bring in? What are the coaches going to plan for this matchup? Turns out to be Malphite into the Camille. It looks like they read it really well that the Camille would come out as well. It was almost an insta-lock into the Malphite.
But they don't get the value you traditionally expect. When we saw it in LPL and other regions, it was against a Varus. It was against a less mobile mid laner. In a reverse situation, the Malphite would be very strong against Vel'Koz and Varus. This is very strong for the 1v1. And of course, with summoners down, with abilities down, Malphite can still engage, but you don't have the reliability of engaging against a no-escape other laners. It's purely for the 1v1, and because Malphite does very, very well against the Camille.
Certainly they do have a lot of pick on their side. The Rakan, Skarner, Malphite is going to be looking to engage head first. We'll see if they can actually do that, but lots of slippery champions on the side of KT. You got the Camille, the Ezreal you mentioned, and even the Azir can be in your back line or way in the back, just poking away. So Afreeca going to have to try to get into that back line with the Malphite, the Skarner, and again, Kuro on the Vel'Koz. Only 1-0 on that pick so far.
And Mowgli comes off the bench. He got to watch Rush in game number 1. That was Rush with a paddock. Can he actually slow down Rush and actually make him accountable in game number 2?
He absolutely needs to, and let's see if he can do it. Let's jump into game number 2 right now. Here we go once again. KT seemingly has more fans here in the studio. We're entirely sold out. Every single seat has been taken. And once again, Rush looking to get aggressive. Mata out of vision is moving in with Rush and Smeb on top of Mowgli, trying to get onto the Spire.
He was there so early. Mowgli was expecting Braum to be the first person forward. So it's just going to be a Spire access. And I guess Deft was able to poke the bone plating out of TuSin. Nothing pilfered just yet. Is Kleptomancy coming through from Deft this game. Now, I want to talk about runes a little bit on this top side, but we'll slow down as but now Deft is being forced out of bot lane. This is spotted on a ward. Okay, nice ward from Afreeca. They spot the late invade topside, so trying to warp the level 1. The fact that we're going to see Camille get to lane very late, Malphite spots it, it would also have been an indicator, but a lot going on in the level 1 in this game. So this time they have less vision on their own camps. We'll see what Azir wants to do. See if Rush will put down, so UCAL put down a late ward on one of their own camps, but he's going to push up and watch Kuro. Let's see if they can once again get a 3 buff, because this time Afreeca has a lot more time to consider the start from the side of KT.
Yep, already Mowgli moving from his blue. They're going to see the Spire is taken, so they know where he's at. Yep. Probably going for that red. And look at Rush immediately moving towards the red, but Mowgli now going to be backing off, as that is spotted there.
And able to get the 3 buff most likely anyway, Valdez, because of just rushing down. Mowgli could have avoided the Spire and been able to get in uncontested in some ways, but one of the extra safety ended up giving too much information, so Rush may be low in mana, but it's Olaf. He's very fast in the clear, and 3 buff seems to be achieved 2 games in a row for KT, even though Afreeca were watching game 1 on with their support jungler.
Yeah, you mentioned how it's not all Rush, it's KT playing around Rush, and certainly once he gets a lead in the jungle, he runs away with it. He rushes down the objectives. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do on the blue side. It's a little bit easier to go into the Dragon, take it very early on the Olaf when you're on red side. But this time, just going to start with the 3 buff. I want to see where he goes from here.
I wanted to speak about runes. I'll do it now. Keen is not going for the Comet, which is what I saw when I was watching the LPR and Gingoon on this Malphite, just for a bit more laning phase. Smeb, of course, going on. The Camille is running Comet himself, but it's going to be the Grasp of the Undying, looking for the back end of trades after perhaps he's taken a Precision Protocol. He can turn around for a Grasp proc. So a bit heavier into Resolve. Might be taking Chrysalis, of course, a very popular rune on most top laners. But going to be a little bit less mana regen available. Probably has gone, I didn't actually spot whether he had gone into the mana flow band or not, but if you're going to go for Q Harass on the Malphite, and that's how you win this lane. Q Harass actually does stick onto the low sustain coming through from the Camille. But it's going to be very heavy in terms of mana requirements, even though he has Corrupting Potion.
Yeah. And again, guys, for you people out there that are playing a lot of solo queue, this isn't 8.7. He's not buffed just yet. This is just normal old Malphite, no shorter cooldown on his ults, no extra damage, AP ratio on his E. So it's going to be plain old Malphite. We'll see what he can do. I would imagine that he picked the mana flow band. Is already low on the mana. Smeb still has his pot as well. So
we get the confirmation it is mana flow band, but didn't want to go all the way into sorcery. Didn't want to go for the Comet, which to me is a surprise from what I'm used to when I've been researching this top lane Malphite. Felt like it was coming just because I saw it do so crushingly well against the ultra meta top laner in the Camille. We'll wait and see what the max is here from Smeb, as you can be very flexible on Camille. We see QW and Emaxes all situationally on the Camille in lane. And Mowgli finds himself 2 levels down. Bit of a rollback of what happened in game number 1, as they're just finding an easy way to get the Olaf massively ahead compared to the enemy jungle.
It just seems like Afreeca didn't really notice that this was going to be a thing coming into these games, because KT had it prepared, and Afreeca don't really have an answer for it. Always Mata's there to push in, and Tucson can't really do anything because he's late.
And the weird thing about that is, of course, late invades and in general level 1 invades have always been a thing in League of Legends, but Valdez, think back to this season, there's been very little of it. There's been very little aggressive level 1s. They've been very, very passive of some of the off-season changes. Rush has to be careful, he's only level 5, but so's Kuro, so
yeah, it's
no ultimate to go down, no life disintegration array to go down onto him. All I'm saying is, level 1s haven't been in meta recently, and KT just bring it back on 3 days prep, and it seems like Afreeca aren't ready for a very proactive level 1, facilitated largely by the power of Braum.
Yeah. Kind Boy is certainly not being kind to Mowgli or to Spirit in game number 1. He's always invading. He doesn't even have to go that far. He just has to ward and show his face, and he's going to delay Mowgli, delay that level 6, the Skarner power spike, loving to come in with his ganks after getting an Impale at level 6, but Rush is going to be miles ahead of him, as we do see so far. Hasn't gone for the Drake, as I was wondering. what he would do. He's just trying to get in the face of Mowgli and say, I'm going to take all your camps instead.
Don't quite have the Callista for the ultra lane priority in the bot side. It's a lot more even in this game, so being a lot more respectful, just playing around the top side jungle. Yukal pushes up. Ult's now available on the mid laners.
Oh, nice steal there by Kuro to get some of the smaller ones, but Rush does get the smite on the big Raptor here. In the 2v2, we mentioned, you know, Olaf versus Skarner is going to be quite nice, but also the Azir versus the Vel'Koz. Vel'Koz has a bit of pushing power himself, but in the earlier levels, this Azir doing a nice job pushing in Kuro.
See if Keen goes the build I saw, which I believe was Sunfire Cape Trinity Force, which feels like a really old school build. Somewhere Wicked is watching the stream that, yes, Trinity Force Malphite. Season 2's back, but it is actually very powerful for how the trades are done against a Camille, and the fact that you have to trade. The Hextech Ultimatum eventually comes in, and Unstoppable Force doesn't allow you to get out, so you actually have to take standing trades. So I'd love to see the Triforce Malphite brought back again. Bot lane control, just fine for the side of the Ezreal Braum. Rakan laning phase may have got some small buffs, but their AP ratio is not going to be relevant in the early game.
Yeah. Seems pretty even down here in the bottom side. Just keeping up so far as Kramer. We take another look at the top side. Still waiting on Malphite's items, but of course the Ninja Tabi first before the nerf on 8.7 is going to be pretty standard here. So far, Afreeca bottom lane has done a good job of denying the back of both Deft and Mata. Neither of them able to buy any items just yet.
They can't really be any more accountable or keep KT any more accountable than they currently are, because look at the minimap. Unfortunately, getting aggressive vision when your jungler is getting counter-jungled. You know, we're seeing a lot of battle warding from Rush, and that means that KT have a lot more information about where Mowgli is likely to be, and Afreeca have no information outside of when Rush decides to walk up. So that means that for now, hasn't been a lot of lane control. Now that can change now, as we're going to push on here. Level 6 advantage. Mana does not have it. Gets it now.
Okay, there it is. The Chain of Corruption is actually not going to be there, but Deft is going to get locked up, and there's the TP. First Blood going to come into Kuro, and now Mana in a lot of trouble. Tucson tanking this up and going to give the kill over to Kramer. Heals himself to get away. A double kill for Afreeca in the bottom lane.
Really nice timings there as Azir was in base. First proactive move Afreeca's made all series. Rush pops the Predator just to try to keep the turret up. Whoa, he's going in.
Trying to go in there, 1v4. Does push Kramer back, and he saves the turret.
And that's what the play is for. It looks completely Rambo, because effectively it is, but it's aggression knowing that with the Ragnarok he'll get out, and keeping the turret up is all that matters. Looking for the snipe, doesn't get it.
Doesn't get the back there on Tucson either.
Extending the laning phase is very important for Rush. That's why he probably got the call from Mata or Deft saying, we need the turret up, because Ezreal is always about deciding when you rotate. 2-item Ezreal shows up in other lanes, not tier Ezreal still working on his first completed item. They need the extended laning phase to get the Ezreal to the point of power where you want to wield him in other lanes, and that's why Rush has to use his Flash, Predator, and Ragnarok to keep the turret up. Yeah. We watched the replay here. Azir's in base, a great timing from Kuro. Remember that Rush was there for a lane gank and also a counter gank, but had no mana, so eventually just went for the recall. Great timing from Afreeca. Awkward that Kramer took the aggro in this. He actually had to use his heal to get away from it. But the counterplay is there for KT. Legit counterplay, if I was going to say it myself. They do steal away a blue buff.
Yeah, they get that, so we'll see Keen come down and ward the enemy blue buff, as, of course, they were on a control ward in there. Definitely going to help out up against the Vel'Koz, who is mana hungry. We'll see if they make a play up towards the top side now. Going to take the Spire here and perhaps make a move towards this Rift Herald or the blue even.
Welcome back, Rockman. Back from Marin, last playing the Malphite. That was a loss. That wasn't a great game from Marin. That was Summer Marin. We don't talk about Summer Split 2017 Marin, but spring season he was pretty good. Counter steal, nicely done. Afreeca will get the blue buff onto Kuro.
Yep, got to get that blue for the Vel'Koz. It was nicely spotted on the control ward in their own jungle, and they do get that down. Yukal once again ahead in the lane. The lane dominance with the Azir early on, and the poke that you have even after all the nerfs is still very good. And it seems like he's doing a good job with that undefeated pick for himself that I was very surprised that they gave over to him once again.
But we should remember it's, you know, basically at the time a one-wave lead against someone who roamed on you and got involved in 2 kills. So it is still going to be Kuro but we give the benefit of the doubt in the early game because of his great TP timing. Rush is back bot lane. They know Skarner will be available if he was bot side. They don't know where Skarner is. We know he's recalling, but seems like Afreeca just disengaging in the bot side.
Notice that Smeb doesn't really have too much kill pressure up in the top side. The Bomby Cinder and the Ninja Tabi are so good against this Camille.
And that's what you think about. You have that rock shield, you have that passive, and it's all about Camille taking a cheeky 400 damage trade as she gets a couple of levels, and then the enemy lane is like, oh, I can't do anything. Malphite maxing Q, will get a Q in, he gets an auto in, and he also takes reduced damage on the trade, because it's roughly the same cooldown on his passive that there is on the hookshot all-in from Smeb. So you actually have a health advantage in trades against Camille that's denied in almost every other Camille matchup.
Having a fun tying up here. Smeb actually looking like he missed the cannon there to take a trade against the Malphite, as we said, is not going to be too effective. Rush coming in here and counter jungling, but Afreeca say, okay, I guess we'll just go for the Drake then. Spotted on a ward was Rush moving into the jungle. They expected it and read it, and now they're going to get this nice early Mountain Drake.
What happens when bot lane isn't quite as picked for the 2v2. Much more even in this game. When it's Ezreal Braum against the Varus and Rakan. So because of the nice gank bot side, someone is still down on Deft. They are trading control of the map rather than just Rush owning the map like he did in game number 1. So the adaptations we didn't see in the 3 buff that Afreeca gave up have still been happening. Mowgli wasn't able to get the turret last time, but Rush is here to kind of keep, once again, this bot lane laning phase going as long as possible.
And so now I was a little bit surprised that Mowgli did go for the Skarner pick into the Olaf, but so far it's been looking pretty good. Even though he got counter-jungled, got behind, is losing on farm, was a little bit more proactive in terms of the ganks. The Impale spike at level 6 is pretty insane. Still trying to make a move at that bottom turret. They want to get the first blood turret down on the bottom side. But Mowgli and Kuro going to be spotted on a ward. Rush hanging around the bottom side, so this turret not going to go down just yet.
Really greedy from Rush. He doesn't have the wards to make this play, so he's going to get invaded. We'll get the red buff anyway, but look where the vision is. Control wards, massive advantage for Afreeca bot side. They've already made a couple of visits to that red side jungle already. Risky to make that, but he didn't have lane backup either. He gets the red buff, he gets out, and crucially, doesn't have to lose a summoner or his ultimate.
Very brave in the face of Afreeca's invade. And you mentioned now the 2v2 not looking so great in the bottom side for KT. It looks like finally this turret is going to go down. All of the gold is going to be given over to Kramer, who did rush the Rage Blade. Ooh, big whiff there by Yukal. This
Might
is
be
going to
dead.
be turned around. One more tick, almost does it. Yukal just barely able to get away. Rush now just going to be the Guardian here, trying to push them back.
First time we've seen a mistake from Yukal on that play. Had to use both summoners on the backside. Kuro did not. Pawn was one we criticized for making similar Azir plays. Was all semblance of mid lane control to make that play. Bit of a blooper from Yukal. You have to look like you can actually be fallible once in a while. And that was the first time we've seen it from a Yukal in the playoffs.
Yeah. Didn't look nervous at all in his matchups against SKT, his first best of 5, but now they're ahead 1 game and he gets his Azir. And the first time we see him go for a flashy play, it doesn't work out. Let's hope it doesn't affect his mental state, as they are behind in this game against Afreeca.
As you mentioned, has been steely so far in his resolve, even after making a couple of mistakes, going for really aggressive all-in solo Q-esque in some of his earlier matches, particularly against Kongdu and SKT. Here, he's expected to be a lot more stable. His stability is the reason he's being preferred over Pawn, who has been an up-and-down player his entire career. Looking at the items, as we mentioned, it is the Sunfire Rush coming through from Keen. So a Sapphire Crystal. We'll see if it does end up being something like the Frozen Heart, an old pick from Malphite, or if it goes full all-in on the Trinity Force as a second or third item.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned before is how Keen slowly seems to be trying to become Smeb. Their champion pool is very...
That's not slow.
Okay, they're trying to go in there, and now they're going to get the hook there onto Yukal. He does go down, getting extremely low. One auto attack on a rush. Would have done it for the kill, but Tucson, we talk about this man on the Rakan. He's 7-0 so far, looking for his 8th win tonight.
And this is the sort of play from Afreeca we were expecting in game 1, but did not get. Fantastic team at expecting what the enemy will do, putting down wards, macro-wise very clean. They have such a vision advantage. Feels like, once again, KT vs SKT game 1, where they weren't able to get as ahead with Rush and couldn't have the vision control that Score and Mata usually provide. They've had the control in the 2v2, no Thresh this time, to allow KT to really win the 2v2. And that means that Afreeca have controlled the map, and KT are on the back end of most of these trades. Watch the replay here. They know that UCAL has summoners down. Tucson is so clean on the Rakan. Could have been banned in both the first and second round. KT thought better of it. This is the sort of punishment you deserve. And even after the teleport, unable to keep that mid lane turret alive for UCAL.
Yeah, things getting pretty intense now for KT as Afreeca beginning to run away with this one in their own right. Already 2-0-1 is Kuro on the Vel'Koz. He's going to be chunking people down, already working towards that Morellonomicon as his second item. Take a look at the jungles so far. Mowgli, in terms of working with this team, seems to look a lot better than Spirit in game 1.
So you're saying that if you watch the enemy jungler in game 1, you know where to be on the map?
Yes.
Well, that's exactly what Mowgli has used. It hasn't been his mechanics, been the usage of him. He's clearly used the time well. We were surprised about the 3 buff, but their ability to just disregard that, say, well, you've got Braum, you've got Olaf, we'll accept it, and then go for the Skarner, not even picking for the 1v1, but picking for the comp. Afreeca have done very, very well in spite of the nice lead for Rush in the early game.
Looking quite nice for them so far. The Infernal Drakes were good to KT in game number 1, looking to be good to Afreeca as well. Their first one coming up next alongside the Mountain Drake.
I wonder if we could have a 5-game series where one jungler changes for each team after a loss. That could happen in this series. You can swap in and out. Rush is going to walk up, trying to take the Rift Herald, which would be against the run of play. They've put down some control wards, but Afreeca definitely know that KT's playing top side.
Yeah, it's always fun the things you can do if you've got an Azir in your composition.
Oh, and I see a Sheen. He's doing it. He's going full, I'm going to run at Camille and win trades. Has Keen, so Trinity Force, second item here. It's not for the team fight. He will still be able to put out the unstoppable force and also do the ground pound and slow the attack speed, but it's largely around the 1v1. Not often you think of Malphite and picking for the 1v1, but that's what Malphite into Camille represents.
The trades are going to go Keen's way, and the Camille you can get away, but the unstoppable force is so hard to get away from, so there you go. The Infernal Drake going to go over to Afreeca. Next one is going to be a second Mountain Drake. Certainly will help out.
I bet some people at home thought it was going to be an Iceborne Gauntlet. There's a dagger, guys, just so you know. I'm not joking here. I did the research. It's definitely Trinity Force coming out from the Malphite.
You just imagine what he can do on 8.6. We saw over in LPL, but on 8.7, it's going to be like, it's not going to be the same kit as Ornn, but it's going to be that super low cooldown. You know, you go ultimate hat, 45% CDR on top of that, and then the 82nd at level 16 ultimate. It's going to be pretty intense for anybody playing against Malphite on 8.7.
Very interesting. Again, just Malphite as a 1v1 champion. I feel like I have to, like, just adjust all of my thinking because
you need to
6 to 7 years of Malphite just being there for an ultimate to navigate through bronze has to be adjusted in this particular situation. Bronze, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, so far we've been seeing very one-sided games, and Keen looking to bring it into that bronze-like state with the Malphite once again. Although we haven't really seen too many highlights from him. He's not going full-on deep 1v1. The one time that KT thought he was going to do it, he just backs off and moves towards mid.
But how many times have we seen Smeb dunk people with Camille? He's famous for hook shot, into think about it, into outplaying Untaris Jax, into outplaying a Fiora. In this case, the Malphite is so straightforward. Everything about the trades, Malphite wins, and that's why he's just picked for the matchup. He's ready to go, and I really like to see this from King.
Gotta hand that one over to the coaches as well, doing their analysis, watching all the different regions, seeing that pick come in and saying, that's really good against Smeb's Camille. Let us bring that into our next matchup, which just turns out to be Smeb's Camille. So certainly very well prepared for this. Wasn't just the Malphite, but the Skarner into Olaf making its plays. Down in the bottom side, the TP from Kuro as well.
Him slow down a little bit because we've been able to talk about all these builds, and they're just trying to hold KT as accountable as possible. Baron now on the Rift. We never saw the Rift Herald claimed in this particular game. Olaf build. It's only just going to be a Night Spouse. Very much utility focus from Rush in this game. 2 items on the Ezreal. There's still a team fight that is won for either side of KT because of the power loaded on the Ezreal. But Ezreal's in base. And now look at the 1v1s. You lose these ones, Smeb.
Smeb, he's trying to run at Keen, but he can't get away now. The hook shot finally comes in, but he loses the trade. Keen gets the win in the lane, and he's going to be very happy with that.
Yeah, nothing you can do. You do lose those 1v1 trades. Maybe 4 items it changes, as Rush's going to have to ult.
Oh boy, the Olaf even forced a flash away as well, so he doesn't really have that engaged. He's not going to be dunking people, the Varus, like in game number 1. He's 0-0-0 with a Knight's Vow after his jungle item. This is all about just helping out his teammates for game number 2.
Let's take a deep breath and see where this game is going, because it seems like no team is going to blow the other one away in 27 minutes like we saw in game number 1. Afreeca have made very nice adaptations after the early game, after the first 5 minutes. Everything they've done basically turned into gold. And there is a little bit of a lifeline. You do some bogus damage on Camille when you have 4 or 5 items, the GA, BF, Sword Spike. So there will be burst to Malphite later, but he can also start actually building health after the Trinity Force. So actually having the 1v1 split push as a backup to solid team fighting, it's not going to be there. Malphite in team fights, if the flashes are down, is going to be a beast. It doesn't matter if he's not as much of a health tank with a Randuin's like you usually expect with a Malphite. The flashes are down, the ult can still do work. Afreeca do have the ability to rain down with the Vel'Koz and the Varus, which are a much more stable part. And if we do see Varus go the same build and get the auto attacks in, can still be a lot of damage.
Smeb gonna force this one. There are 3 members of KT down on the bottom side. Keen, though, he's Malphite. He just runs away with his ultimate. And Afreeca doesn't look like they're gonna start onto that Baron just yet. Rush was nearby here. They don't want to go for the 50-50. Not going to rush it and try to turn just yet. Going to respect it.
That play might work at level 16 when it's full 4-second duration on the Hex Ultimatum, but killing a Malphite in 4 seconds, whatever item build, is very, very tricky to do. So Trinity Force now complete on the Malphite. Very situational from here. Looking at the enemy team, probably just going to be health, you would imagine, to deal with mixed damage coming through from Deft and UCAL. Afreeca own the top side. They were able to wrestle control back after KT earlier was setting up for the Rift Herald. KT, a really strong point in the game where Ezreal should be the strongest person on the Rift, hasn't really led to anything. Muramana, Trinity Force, they've never been able to actually get a fight around that point. They're going to get a lot of damage onto this turret. Will they actually complete it? They will.
Thinking about forcing the fight there, even with the chains of corruptions, but Afreeca not able to get there on time. And so they just trade 1 for 1. That mid-tier 1 going to be a little bit better for KT. Things overall going to scale up a little bit faster for both teams as 2 turrets go down.
Rush has said, well, there's a lot of magic damage, and bought 2 null magic mantles after dealing with that, and Rush is now caught.
Okay, he's going to Ragnarok, but a little bit late, and there it goes, ticking down to actually Tucson with the Ignite. So free kill onto Rush, who's just face checking in there. Teleport comes in. Should be a very free Baron for Afreeca.
And you see the difference of KT from ahead with Rush and KT from behind. They don't have any map control. They're going to go for the free Baron. They're going to get a free Smeb too. And Afreeca Freecs are so far ahead.
Smeb decides, hey, you bought my buddy Rush, I'll give you one too. Let me give you a free kill. And that's going to be the Baron and the Mountain Drake going to Afreeca.
And our prep told us that Afreeca Freecs would be able to look at what KT's tendencies were and adapt. Game 1, we did not see that. But Game 2, and also looking back, KT Rolster had picked for the early to mid game, played around aggression, and just taken leads. They won 3 games in a row because score was in Blank's face and there was nothing Blank could do. In this game, Rush does not have the same priority on the enemy jungler. He's been well held. KT have continued to pick for early. This time, Afreeca haven't opted in as much as they did in Game 1. They've also navigated a lot better. And now KT are running around like Afreeca did in Game 1. And now KT kind of look like the headless chickens.
Yeah. It's not as big of a lead that KT did have in game number 1 that Afreeca now does have, but it's only the beginning of the Baron push, and this time it's with double Mountain Drake, the Infernal. You have an incredibly far ahead Varus who just picked up his IE, I believe, as a 3rd item, and the Vel'Koz who's working towards that death cap. What are you going to do against all that damage?
It's one of those things where this Varus now has the 3 items. We criticized the Rage Blade into IE when they were behind in lane. Those 2 items needed long fights. In this game, his front line is a lot tankier. He's more likely now because he already has attack speed and crit to get value out of the IE and live to the 6 orders where the Rage Blade and IE can situationally work together a lot better. And the adjustment that Afreeca made, remember that this is on the red side and they didn't have to pick it. KT chose blue. I could see Afreeca choosing red again and once again looking for a counter pick because counter picking top lane and really stopping Smeb from being unleashed has led to a lot of good news for the side of Afreeca.
Certainly, red side looking like the MVP so far in the pick and ban phase, based on what we've seen. Taking a look at some items here, Kramer versus Deft. I feel like they should scroll this a little bit faster.
Rage Blade at 11 minutes, Trinity Force later, and in general, just good news story after good news story as Afreeca played around bot side with both Kuro and Mowgli making visits and got the maximum. That has meant always an item lead. Not often you see 2-item Ezreal. Significantly later than a lot of the items are there for Afreeca. Speaking of Afreeca pushing through mid lane, not interested in grouping with the Malphite. There's poking out. They want to use this Baron buff. There's many of the standing gold turrets they can.
Good timing there on the QSS by Deft. Gets him to safety. Doesn't take the damage from the double ultimate of Kuro and Kramer, but doesn't really matter. They push them off the turret. They get 1 turret. And they're going to move in to get their second. Now you can see how much damage they do. Double Mountain, plus Baron, plus Infernal, and all the seeds they have in their comp.
They're grouping with the Malphite this time. Smeb slowly pushes in top lane in an item discrepancy compared to his opponent Keen, who finally can start building tanking, working on his Spirit Visage that he's just completed. KT don't own anywhere on the map. The Ezreal has not been wielded to its maximum power, as Bang and Deft have been so great about in recent months. Feels like Afreeca Freecs have answered a lot of the queries, even though KT got to roll back a lot of what looked good. The last pick Malphite really put this draft together because we were really concerned for a lot of the first round for Afreeca. But the turnaround and what they've been able to do in the second round, that's where the coaching staff, and we've significantly praised Zephyr, who came over from Kongdu Monster, attributed for most of the good stuff for Kongdu. Not as many of the struggles, as unfortunately that org has gone through, but also Comet coming over from Jin Air and being a really good coach as well. They've both jumped onto Afreeca to support I Love Uve, who's more of the head coach there, the legendary StarCraft 1 pro gamer. They have been very respected as a trio, and they've definitely been made to earn their money in game number 2.
Just makes game number 3 that much more interesting. If we had KT rolling over Afreeca, the finals would have been really interesting, right? A newly formed KT with UCAL and Rush coming into the lineup, all these different pieces coming in to form that big puzzle. But now it's Afreeca, as I said before, trying to play spoiler against this very exciting KT team.
The best thing about this series is a 1-1 is what we want, Valdes. We want 5 games. We want Afreeca to not roll over. This will be their first ever postseason win. They have never won a single game in playoffs, only in regionals, and looking to break the base now.
That they are. The poke damage onto Deft is pretty annoying, but there's the flash at a Tushin. Not gonna fully engage there. He's just scaring them, kind of playing with their minds right now, saying, get the hell away from me. I'm on my recon looking for my 8th undefeated win. So they get the inhibitor. Smeb once again does not want to join for the team fights.
Rush is all alone, guys.
Yeah, he's gonna Ragnarok here, but tons of damage coming out from the Vel'Koz. Waiting for the Ragnarok to time out, but not going to have enough time to do exactly that.
Crucially, didn't have to use his flash. He actually doesn't need to use too much to make that face check, and we'll have Ragnarok available again when the Baron spawns, but I don't think it matters. The same sort of item lead that was there for KT in game number 1 is there for Afreeca in game number 2. 8,000 gold as Rush would love to smite away a red. It's not going to happen. Mab walks in on a ward, but Afreeca have already started disengaging. Malphite now unkillable, and Smeb could just die.
Oh boy, it looks like he was shopping too. Not gonna have enough to get out of this one. Hextech Ultimatum used as desperation on his way out. They pick up a free kill. Afreeca looking good in this one.
Afreeca's gonna roll forward. Rush.
Ooh.
Oh, got lucky there. Was
Okay.
far enough into the recall. Recall does go through. They continue to push in. Summoners up on most of their members. So once again, Unstoppable Force. We'd never even had to talk about it really this series. It was used once in Scion-esque fashion to run away. Gathering Storm is there from Smeb and Deft. A little bit hopeful, I would say, for this game number 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good timing to pop it up there as 30 minutes passes by, but getting to 40 minutes, that's going to be a real challenge for KT Rolster. Malphite, you talked about the unstoppable force. We are going to see it later, no doubt, but so far it's just been a threat of it, and the 2-item, 3-item situation against the Camille has been really good. It's refreshing to see that kind of matchup, especially with all the Poppy we've been seeing into Camille. That's kind of been replaced now by the Malphite, who seems to have a much better laning phase against Camille.
Poppy answers the mobility. Malphite answers the laning phase. He answers the champion trading patterns that the Camille basically wins in almost every 1v1 against a reasonable opponent. So they picked Malphite purely for the lane. It won the lane up in CS in a very comfortable spot. They roll around, they haven't even needed the engage. And now KT Rolster, they need to make a super play pretty soon, otherwise it feels like Afreeca will take the second Baron and start to close this game.
Yep, you speak of super plays, you're going up against triple Mountain Drake. Up into this Baron. You also got the Varus there with the Rage Blade. Look at this Baron just disappear. Rush, though, wants to come in from the steal. He needs to get it here.
He got it!
He gets the steal there. Smeb's still alive. But Rush and Smeb getting incredibly low, looking to give their lives away. Mana also looking to go down here as he does. But the Baron is stolen by KT. Can they stop the push is the question.
I mean, Afreeca's going to keep going. They want to still end this game or at least take a couple of inhibitors against the Baron buff. Excellent steal by Rush, but the base is already broken. 5 members strong are Afreeca Freecs. And it seems like it's only going to be a half step forward and another step back.
Yeah, they're going to have the Baron minions to help the push, but it's only Deft and Yukal. Now, the Azir is fantastic against the push when you are going into this. You remember 8.1, but it's 5 versus 2 right now. You got to buy some time. Yukal trying to make the big play. Is not able to scoop everybody. He's going to give his life. Deft still available here, trying to fight against
What's an Ezreal to do?
Look at Keen going head-to-head with Deft. He's gonna get that 1v1. One last Q is gonna do it. Down he goes, and down goes the Nexus. We're all tied up 1-1.
11-0, not a single kill picked up by KT Rolster in game number 2. Genius Malphite last pick. Answered both the Ezreal when we eventually got to the team fights, but that didn't matter. It was about answering the Camille in the 1v1, and he was able to just roll over the Camille. No impact at all. Keen and the coaching staff deserve their respect. They were able to hide this one for a long time. It works when it needs to, and that means we have a mouth-watering best of 5 that seems prized to go all 5 games.
A mouth-warming best of 5 indeed, Papa. We got a best of 3 to finish this one off, to see who is going to go up against King's Zone. We were doubting Afreeca in game number 1, but after game number 2, we're not so sure who really is the favorite coming into this one.
We're
KT
seeing
coach looking very just calm, cool, and collected. He doesn't seem too taken aback after that game.
I'm sorry you're saying the word Malphite, Malphite, Malphite in some sort of order there. The best thing about this is now it feels like we see 2 teams who, when they are well ready, will not roll over to King's Zone. I really love to see the adaptations, the smart play, the drafting left turns, the red side used a lot of power. What will Afreeca choose for game 3? Because I think sticking with red side on their choice of selection in game 3 would be a smart decision.
Yeah, another question is, does Rush stay in or does Score come in to replace him? We'll find out after a quick commercial break. We'll see you guys in a bit for game 3.
할게요. 뭐 어떻게 하지?
여보세요?
용진아, 나 우찬인데 안녕?
응.
나 결승 갔다
결승
결승.
부럽다 임마. 형 그래도 승강장 안 가서 행복하네.
에이, 작년에 내가 결승에서 근데 내가 처음 데뷔하자마자 이겼잖아. 그게 뭐였지?
그거 뭐지 그거? 그거 알고 있었는데.
나 그 기억이 안 나가지고.
너도 그거 기억하고 있었냐? 왜 나한테 떠넘긴 거냐 지금? 로얄로드.
맞다.
형이 똑똑하지?
다른 게임 하면서 막 시작합니다 이러냐?
너 여전히 노잼이구나.
노잼 말고 좀 좋게 말할 수 없냐?
여전히 좀 잼대가리가 없구나. 일단 잘 쉬고.
아니야. 끊지마. 뭐해.
왜?
사랑해 영준아.
왜 그러냐 갑자기?
사랑해.
좀 끊어라. 나 게임 좀 하게.
사랑해.
좀 이따 전화도 할게. 일단 끊어라.
나중에 연락할게.
아니야, 너 뭐야, 너. 야, 재미없을 줄 알았는데 재밌는. 야, 야 뭐해?
네.
뭐해?
나?
어.
밥 먹으려고.
야, 너 나 결승 간 건 아냐? 근데 왜 연락이 없어?
아니, 씨는 나한테. 야, 최근에 내가 니한테 먼저 연락했지. 먼저 연락한 적도 없는 놈이.
야, 쌍문아,
왜?
그건 됐고. 요즘 사람들이 나한테 뭐라 부르냐?
너 고릴라 부르지?
그거 있잖아, 사람들이 나 부르는 거.
고릴라?
아니, 사람들이 나 부르는 거 있잖아, 그냥 네티즌들이 나를 어떻게 불러?
널 뭐라 부르냐?
있잖아, 상문아,
너 뭐라 부르는데?
잘 생각해봐. 내가 너 좀 잘해줬잖아. 그런 거랑 좀 이렇게 해봐. 뭐?
그 생각날 것 같은데.
빨리 말해봐.
그 뭐야, 그 잘 챙겨주는 사람한테 하는 말.
그렇지. 그거와 이제 내 역할을 이렇게 잘 이렇게 버무려봐.
전체 서포?
오케이, 됐어. 야,
왜?
너 나랑 붙으면 비슷하잖아, 근데.
뭐가 비슷해?
너 나랑 그냥 비빌만 하잖아.
뭘 비벼?
뭐 체력이라던가 뭐 힘싸움 같은 건 비비잖아.
야, 왜 이렇게 깜짝이야? 맞으려고. 왜 나?
야, 됐고. 야, 사랑해.
뭐야, 얘?
아니,
너 전화 와서 갑자기 뭐 하는 짓이냐? 니 뭐 하고 있지?
아니야, 뭐 하는 건 아니고 그냥 갑자기 사랑해라고 하고 싶었어.
스포티비네? 스포티비야. 맞아. 그래, 나 사랑해.
오케이. 나중에 연락할게. 빠이. 나중에 연락할게. 와, 이거 잘하네.
연결되지 않아 삐 소리 후
오케이, 한 명 깔. 오케이. 죄송합니다. 지금 전화를 받을 수 없습니다. 나중에 연락 주세요. 오케이. 통화된대? 뭐야, 이 벨소리? 자, 오는구나? 이 노래가 클래식.
잠들겠는데?
연결이 되지 않아
이걸 한 명도 없어. 저는 전화조차도 못했습니다.
네, 여보세요?
민기 형,
뭐야,
뭐예요? 아까 제
그래.
생각한다며요.
거기서 끝났어.
오케이. 형, 저 결승한 거 알아요?
알지. 알고 있었는데 모른 척 하고 싶었어.
페이커 형님 알죠? 페이커를 사람들이 뭐라 불렀죠?
뭐 센파이?
아니요, 그거 말고요.
페이커가 페이커지.
그거 말고요.
뭐 나랑 싸우자는 거야.
아,
뭐지?
그니까 한 포지션당 제일 잘하는 사람을 그렇게 불러요.
세체미?
오케이.
나 진짜 돌아버리겠네. 너 이거 방송이지?
뭔 소리예요?
맞지, 엄마?
아니에요.
아니야, 너 말투가 굉장히 가식적이야.
뭔 소리예요? 저 평소에 이런데 제 성격이 어때요?
극혐이야.
그거 말고요, 형. 그런 거 말고요. 민기 형,
왜?
사랑해요.
방송이지?
뭔 소리예요? 형이 맨날 저한테 귓속에 속삭이는 단어 알려주세요, 형.
죽여버린다. 그러니까 뭐 이게 마지막인 것 같네, 그치?
네? 뭔 소리예요? 사랑해요.
진심을 좀 담아봐.
사랑해요.
아 진짜 씨. 사랑해. 끝.
나중에 봐요.
성민이가 잘하는 거네. 아, 얘 설명도 잘하네. 저 재거랑 전화 왔어요. 아이고 조사장.
아이고 뭐해?
이게 동생이 결승하는데 이거 어떻게 응원 한마디 안 해줘 이거?
아 옆에 기자님 있나 보네.
아니 무슨 소리예요? 형 기자님 있다니. 형 됐어요. 응원 필요 없고. 형 내가 궁금한 게 있어서 전화했어요. 형 또.
아 그래 궁금한 거 어때?
내가 LCK 뭐다? 3대 뭐다?
3대 원딜.
형 요즘 이거 너무 안 봤어요. 3대 뭐야 형? 우리 남자들한테 붙는 말 있잖아요. 형처럼 잘생긴 사람한테.
3대 미남?
역시 미남 하면 뭐 재걸 형이 당연히 빠질 수 없지 형. 비슷한 사람들한테 뭐라 해야 되지? 뭐라 해야 되지? 그 삐까 뜨는 사람한테 좀 하는 좀 그런 말 없나 이거?
용호 상박.
좋아 형 너무 박식하다 이거. 내가 그렇게 너는
만만하니.
오케이 그거지요. 형 너무 천재야 형. 오케이 형 나중에 말 사랑해.
사랑해.
야.
대단하다. 설명을 잘하네.
대단한데?
뭐 길게 말할 필요가 있나요? 뭐 결승에서 좋은 무대 보여드릴 수 있도록 노력 많이 하겠습니다. 지켜봐주세요. 감사합니다.
아까 통한 용준아의 고맙다. 저희 결승에서 열심히 할 테니까 재밌게 즐기라 하세요. 감사합니다.
다음 경기는 우리가 이긴다.
네, 저희 앞으로 이 영상을 끝으로 이제 결승에서 뵙게 될 텐데, 네, 결승에 사람이 많다 보니까 안전사고도 유의하시고 꼭 쓰레기는 쓰레기통에 버려주시고, 네, 저희 좋은 모습으로 결승장에서 다시 찾아뵙겠습니다. 감사합니다.
안녕. 감사합니다.